Congressman Mike Honda, thank you so very, very much. Let me now turn to our colleague on the Republican side, Tom Petri, who also served. And Tom, if you can share some of your experiences with us.
Yeah, I'm delighted to have the opportunity to join with my colleagues in recognizing the 50th anniversary of the founding of the Peace Corps. It was my pleasure some 25 years ago to work with the fellow whose picture was up by the podium, Sergeant Shriver, on some of the arrangements for the 25th anniversary of the Peace Corps, and they had a gala reunion and program at the Kennedy Center with such luminaries at that time as Harry Belafonte and many others. It was a memorable occasion. Sergeant Shriver, of course, was a great leader in many different areas, and he didn't really much like, though, and I met him in a reception line a while back, and said, "So great to meet Arnold Schwarzenegger's father-in-law." And he didn't really want to be known as Arnold Schwarzenegger's father-in-law. He wanted to be known, and is known, as the first and most dynamic director of the Peace Corps, and for many other, working with Mrs. Shriver on Special Olympics and a variety of other good works that he did with his life. We all have our Peace Corps experiences. I had the opportunity to serve in a neighboring country to Ethiopia, Somalia, troubled place now. It's a great experience, though. And people ask about the Peace Corps, and I always say that one of the things you have to remember about the Peace Corps is that you get a lot more out of it than you really give. You are serving other people, but you're learning about another culture, and at the same time you're learning about your own country and your own experience because of the points of contrast. And what a wonderful thing it is that America has now a large number, tens of thousands of people who have served in the Peace Corps and who've returned and now are working in every walk of life, working in international organizations, working in business organizations, knowing different cultures, knowing different languages, and thereby providing a dimension to our own national life that we would otherwise not have if we did not have people who had the experience of serving in the Peace Corps. So for a whole variety, and one other thing, I still can remember the quizzical but interested reaction that so many people in Somalia, or I'm sure anywhere in the world, "Who are you? Why are you doing? Explain that to me again." And how the spirit was kind of catching, and they would participate in all kinds of little volunteer activities and things that they hadn't necessarily thought of doing themselves. One thing when I was in, and of course the Peace Corps volunteers are not representatives of the American government. They are representatives of the American people. And that was always emphasized very, very strongly to all of us as part of our Peace Corps training, and the way we were living among the people, not behind these diplomatic bunkers that we sometimes see in this world today, and experiencing life in the country in which you're serving. One thing, just as an example, that Peace Corps volunteers, of course, do their assignments, but they're also people, and they do volunteer work of one kind and another. When I was in one of the big hits, when I was in Mogadishu in the Peace Corps, with two other people who were Peace Corps lawyers at that time, about 50, 60 people who were teachers, and some community health workers and community school construction workers. People would come to Mogadishu for a little couple of days off of vacation time when school was down, that kind of thing. And 5 or 6 of them got together and started playing some American young people music. And the next thing, they were invited to a restaurant in Mogadishu, and crowds of hundreds of people gathered, and it was the sensation of the town for a couple couple weeks. Of course, they couldn't be paid for doing this sort of thing, but they might have got a couple free meals from the restaurant and that kind of thing. And what a wonderful sort of natural way of building bridges. The people in this country had never really seen something like this. They weren't on the tour for any of these international shows, and they just thought it was the most wonderful thing to see live music played by American Peace Corps volunteers, and that was the face of America that they were presenting in this country, and it was one that I think served our nation very well. So thank you again for giving me the opportunity to participate in this special order that you've organized to mark the 50th anniversary of the United States.
Tom, thank you so very much for your experiences. Now, what year were you in Somalia?
I was in Somalia in 66, 67.
Those were the same years that Patty and I were in Ethiopia.
Yeah.
And we served in the far western part of Ethiopia in a very small town.
We were there during the peaceful years between the two countries. Peace Corps had been in Somalia and then had been pulled out because war erupted between Ethiopia and Somalia. The people on the Horn of Africa have very close and great respect for each other, but also strong rivalry, and it's a very interesting thing to learn about.
Well, that's exactly the case, and it's not unusual to find wars going on, but as Mike Honda was talking about, the president of Peru, who started his climb up the economic and educational ladder as a result of his experience with a Peace Corps teacher in Peru. The same thing happens in the countries in which you and I and other Peace Corps volunteers serve. I recall in 1990, 99, 2000, when the war broke out between Ethiopia and Eritrea, a group of us became interlocutors trying to figure out how to get these two countries to settle up. And because we were able to stand on the shoulders of so many Peace Corps volunteers that had served in those countries, we were able to meet with the president of Eritrea and the prime minister of Ethiopia in two separate meetings and just talk to them about peace, about why they were fighting, why this war was going on. It had killed nearly 100,000 soldiers at that point. And it turned out that they were willing to talk to us. The reason was that in their high schools, they were taught by Peace Corps volunteers, and they had this trust. They knew we didn't represent the American government. They knew that we were there searching for peace, as we had when we were volunteers. It turned out that that conversation, those conversations, led to the essence of the settlement of that war, the peace treaty. And I'll never forget a day when actually a gentleman who's here in the gallery at the moment, Chet Dombach, was one of our team, and another fellow who was Mike McCaskey, who was then the president of the Chicago Bears. And he was part of our team. And we sat down with the foreign minister of Ethiopia. And we were talking about where we served in the Peace Corps, and Mike was saying he served in the northern part of the country. And the foreign minister said, well, what school? And Mike described the school. It turned out that Mike was the teacher for the foreign minister, and immediately there was a connection. And that connection then led to the meeting that we had, Ellis, and the conversation that ultimately led to a peace treaty. Our role was in it, but the Africa Union carried on. Those are the relationships that count. We never know when they're going to materialize. It's quite possible that the people that you taught may one day be the leaders in Somalia once again. And these are the foundations upon which the Peace Corps reads. Thank you so very much for joining us. I know that you have another appointment that you need to get to, but the experience of a Peace Corps, and my wife would, when she was at as the associate director of the Peace Corps, would often say that a Peace Corps volunteer leaves to search for peace and returns, and throughout one's life continues that process. And our work here in Congress is part of that. Thank you so very much for your service and joining us this evening.
Thank you for organizing this,
Thank you very much.
This occasion.